Good evening, everybody. You remember the Senate seat that was so important just a day ago? It seems the nation has survived the upset and election of the first Democratic senator to serve Alabama in 25 years. And now the swamp moves on, and quickly. Will the Republican leadership deliver on tax reform that is so important to the prospects of the midterm elections? Will the GOP succeed in stopping Dem efforts to shut down the government, or will the GOP actually aid them in the effort? And speaking of Dems and the deep state, how about that Robert Mueller and the testimony of the effective head of the Justice Department, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein? We take up the deep state's sordid web of corruption with Congressman Jim Jordan and former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy here tonight. We'll get into all of that on this broadcast. Our top story tonight, the Justice Department's clear political corruption at the highest levels. The question now is, how far down does it go? The American public is being asked to believe that it's individual ignorance in the Justice Department, not professional incompetence, plaguing both the DOJ and the FBI. But the corruption is too sinister, too evident to ignore, and the only way to respond to the anti-Trump partisanship displayed by FBI agents such as Peter Strzok is to reopen every single investigation he has touched. The nation's Deputy Attorney General, however, doesn't see it that way. For that matter, he doesn't see it at all. Rod Rosenstein testified before the House Judiciary Committee today. He flatly defended the Department of Justice. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with our report.
I think the public trust in this whole thing is gone.
Republicans say the anti-Trump texts undermine confidence in the special counsel Russia investigation, pointing to this August 2016 text from FBI agent Peter Strzok to FBI lawyer Lisa Page, with whom he was romantically involved. The message is under scrutiny because they say, along with other government officials, it speaks to a possible conspiracy. Strzok writes, "The path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected." Andy is believed to be Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, whose wife took more than $700,000 from Democrats for a 2015 state Senate race. Strzok continues, "I'm afraid we can't take that risk."
This guy thought he was Super Agent James Bond at the FBI.
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein deflected questions, pointing to an ongoing government watchdog review.
Our Inspector General is doing a thorough review. That's how we found those text messages as part of that review.
Are you concerned that the Comey FBI and the Obama Justice Department worked with one campaign to go after the other campaign? That's what everything points to.
Another Republican pressed Rosenstein on this text.
If you have those Walmart shopping Trump voters that Peter Strzok so derided in his text messages, how do they react to that? Do they have confidence in their FBI and their Department of Justice?
We have appropriate internal affairs officers who will get to the bottom of that.
Rosenstein emphasized special counsel Robert Mueller fired Strzok last summer as soon as he learned about the anti-Trump texts that included calling candidate Trump an idiot and dropping the F-bomb. On the special counsel team and their political donations.
How with a straight face can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
We recognize we have employees with political opinions, and it's our responsibility to make sure those opinions do not influence their actions.
A senior Democrat defended the FBI agent.
Peter Strzok did not say anything about Donald Trump that the majority of Americans weren't also thinking at the same time.
Other Democrats warned Republicans that alleged political bias can go both ways.
I want to remind my colleagues that people are allowed to have their personal opinions and their political affiliations. For instance, Special Counsel Mueller and former FBI Director James Comey and you are lifelong Republicans.
And they asked Rosenstein to keep an open mind about allegations against the president.
Would it be appropriate for you to investigate these and other allegations of assault and unwanted sexual advances by the President of the United States?
Any other allegation that you think warrants investigation, I would invite you to submit the evidence, and the department will review it.
Also on Capitol Hill, the president's son testified behind closed doors before the Senate Intelligence Committee. We don't know the subjects yet, but we have confirmed it's lasted several hours. Lou?
Catherine, thank you very much. Catherine Herridge reporting from Washington. Rosenstein today seemed convincingly unconcerned with the latest overwhelming evidence that bias and political corruption has infested Mueller's investigation of alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. The newly released text messages from FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, only the latest examples. Of course, it's Strzok who some believe used the discredited Christopher Steele dossier to obtain a warrant from a FISA court to spy on members of the Trump campaign. We have court documents now that show Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson admitted that a Justice Department official's wife, Nellie Orr, was hired for specifically the purpose to investigate Trump. We've learned that Mueller's top lieutenant, Andrew Weissman, praised acting Attorney General Sally Yates when she blatantly defied President Trump on the travel ban. Mueller prosecutor Jeannie Rhee represented the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton, for crying out loud. And it was Rhee who worked for a time under FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. And McCabe's wife pocketed roughly $700,000 in campaign money from political groups aligned with Clinton, including the Clintons' biggest money raiser at one time, and that is Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. At the very same time, McCabe was investigating, seemingly, Hillary Clinton in the email scandal. At least 9 of Mueller's 17 attorneys are Democratic donors, 5 of them donating to Hillary Clinton. Not a single Republican among them. And our first guest tonight says the public trust is gone. After Rosenstein's appearance today before his committee, he's calling for a second special counsel. And joining us tonight is Congressman Jim Jordan. He serves on both the Judiciary and Oversight Committees, a member of the House Freedom Caucus. And Congressman, great to have you with us.
Good to be with you.
Rod Rosenstein, today I've been wanting to ask the question since he began talking of you, which is what was your reaction when you heard him dismiss everything?
Well, look, you can't make this stuff up. This story gets worse and worse each and every day. And the email that Catherine highlighted in the earlier segment, she picked the text message. She picked the right text message because the anti-Trump text, that's no big deal. I mean, we know everyone on the Mueller team is anti-Trump. You just went through the whole list. But the text message where he says to Lisa Page, Peter Strzok says to Lisa Page, we can't let this happen. In other words, we can't let Donald Trump be president. That shows that he's thinking about a plan to stop one party's nominee from being president. And remember Peter Strzok. He's the guy who ran the Clinton investigation, interviewed Cheryl Mills, interviewed Secretary Clinton. He's the guy who took the exoneration letter and changed the term gross negligence, which is a crime, to extreme carelessness, which is not a crime. He's the guy who ran the Russian investigation. He's the guy who interviewed Flynn. He's picked by Mueller to be on his team and kicked off for these text messages. Right. I think he's the central player here. And now we have this text message between him and Lisa Page where he says, we need a plan. He even says this, Lou. He says, we need an insurance policy. In case the American people, in his mind, are crazy enough to elect Donald Trump, we need something else to stop Trump. That's what this guy was thinking at the highest levels of the deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI. That's what this is about, and that's why we need a second special counsel and should disband the whole Mueller team right now.
Robert Mueller, the special counsel, and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, the effective head of the Justice Department now. Let's just put up the quote from Peter Strzok again so everybody sees it and understands. And this is the quote you focused on immediately because you were not appalled by just simply the anti-Trump part.
No, everyone knows.
You were appalled by the fact this was an active effort to prevent his path to the presidency.
It shows intent, Lou. It shows intent to do something to stop Donald Trump, who was nominated by the Republican Party running for president. It shows they're trying to stop him, and it all has to do, I believe, with this dossier.
And let's read it. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, presumed to be Andrew McCabe, the number 2 person at the FBI, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. This is, as you say, clearly intent It also is presumptive of some illusion that takes him, I think, even beyond what you were suggesting about James Bond and the FBI. This is a man who's a political activist who means to have his way, which is the only way. It's anti-democratic, it's anti-American, it is god-awful, and yet Mueller doesn't call for his resignation, yet Rod Rosenstein doesn't call for his resignation.
Yeah, he
wants to wait on an inspector general. Does anybody make a decision in the Department of Justice?
Yeah, no kidding. And this is bad. And here's the concern. Peter Strzok thought he was saving the world. He's Mr. Super Agent James Bond in his mind. He thinks he's out there doing this wonderful service by going against the very guy that people are going to elect, President Trump. He is no different. And this is scary. He's no different than Lois Lerner, who thought she had to go after conservatives because they're having too much influence in politics. It's the exact same mindset. But here we have the guy who I think took the dossier, the discredited, disproven dossier, fake news, garbage dossier, took that document that the Clintons paid for, took that dossier. I think he dressed it all up and presented it to the FISA court. I think the deputy head of counterintelligence, Peter Strzok, did that. And if that happened, when you boil this all down, Lou, it's really about two questions. Did they pay Christopher Steele? Did the FBI pay him? It's been reported they did, the guy who wrote the dossier. Right. And did they take his work product, the dossier, and present it as real intelligence and take it to the FISA court to get warrants to spy on people associated with Trump's campaign? If the answer to those questions is yes, then this is as bad as anything I've ever seen in government. And if the answer is yes, people like Peter Strzok need to be held accountable.
By accountable, do you mean go to jail?
If that's where it takes us. But we don't know that until they give us the information. We haven't even, we need to depose Peter Strzok. We need him sitting right where Rod Rosenstein sat today, answering our questions in front of the whole world. We need Andrew McCabe. We need Lisa Page. We need this guy, Bruce Orr, who you brought up earlier. We need all these people to come in. We're going to depose them. We're going to get the documents, and then we're going to put them on the stand and have them answer questions. We'll see if they take the fifth, or we'll see if they answer questions.
You know, I would love to see a grand jury impaneled here. I'm really very tired of political accountability that ends up in 2 or 3 paragraphs, sometimes a half a page of reporting. I much prefer to see jail sentences for violating the trust of the American people and working against the Constitution and, yes, the President of the United States.
You're tired of it, Lou, and most importantly, I'm tired, and I'm tired of it, but most importantly, the American people are tired of it. They're sick of the double standards. Because you're Peter Strzok, some big shot at the FBI, there's a different standard for you than the folks I get the privilege of representing in the 4th District of Ohio. It is not supposed to work that way.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because as I listened, and you've been asking these questions for a long time, and I'm always interested at the quiet chill that seems to be the only answer these officials are capable of when you ask, did you pay for the dossier? Did you think about the consequences of what you're doing? And they don't answer, but their silence and the chill in the air is an answer of its own. And I don't think it's going to be very pleasant for the American people when we get the answers.
Yeah, I'm afraid the answer to those questions is yes, which actually deep down scares me. If this actually happened, the FBI had a concerted effort with people at the top to go after one party's nominee to help the other party's nominee. If that actually happened in the United States of America, and everything each and every day points to more and more likely that that is what took place, that is just, it's sad for our country if that in fact took place. And I think it did, based on everything I'm seeing. All the evidence points to that.
Congressman Jim Jordan, as always, a terrific job today in committee, and thank you for being with us here tonight.
Thank you.
We're coming right back. There is, unfortunately, a lot more. Stay with us. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein simply ignoring clear conflicts of interest and defending flatly Robert Mueller's witch hunt against President Trump.
Have you seen good cause to fire Special Counsel Mueller?
No.
We take up the need for a second special counsel to investigate the corrupt Department of Justice and FBI leadership with Andrew McCarthy. And the deep state exposed. Fusion GPS admits it hired a top DOJ official's wife, Nellie Orr, to investigate President Trump. Of course you would do that, wouldn't you? We'll have more on the deep state's attack against President Trump here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein today rejected altogether the idea that political donations to Democrats by members of special counsel Robert Mueller's team shows they're biased in any way against President Trump.
I'm not aware of any impropriety. We do have regulations of special counsel subject to all the department's rules and subject to oversight by the department, including the Inspector General. I'm not aware of any violation of those rules by the special counsel employees.
So you don't think it creates the appearance of impropriety?
Well, appearance is to some extent in the eye of the beholder.
Congressman Smith must be pondering tonight, eye of the beholder, as if that's an answer. Joining me now, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy, contributing editor of National Review, great American, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Lou.
An extraordinary performance today by Rod Rosenstein before the Judiciary Committee, which has specific oversight over the FBI. I cannot believe how many times I heard, I can't answer that question, won't answer that question. We're waiting on the Inspector General's report. He seemed as if he's another one in the Justice Department, in addition to the Attorney General, who is merely presiding.
Well, certainly the way that the special counsel investigation that we have came to be was an instance of him being quite passive in what his duty was, which was to set parameters around that investigation. But I think the two things that I come away with from the testimony today are the idea that a Justice Department Inspector General investigation, which is fairly narrow, right, particularly compared to a regular investigation, is not supposed to be a substitute or a proxy in any way for Congress being able to do its oversight and get answers to these important questions on behalf of the people they represent. That's the way our government's supposed to work. The second thing is this precious reliance on these regulations about, you know, whether people can give political contributions when they're... Look, I was a prosecutor. I was a very opinionated, politically prosecutor, and I gave donations from time to time, too. Usually, it doesn't make any difference. And in most cases, the regulations make perfect sense. But you're always supposed to have an independent obligation to avoid the appearance of impropriety. And if you know you are going into an investigation that's freighted with divisive partisan politics, if you're a partisan, it doesn't make you a bad person, but you should stay out of it. Right. And if you don't have the sense to stay out of it, they shouldn't recruit you in the first place.
Thousands upon thousands of DOJ attorneys and prosecutors. Why would you not choose one who was not so fraught with burdens of partisanship?
Or people from the outside. Mueller himself came from the outside. There's plenty of people like me. I'm not volunteering, believe me. But there's plenty of people who are just like me, who serve the Justice Department, know how to do this, and could get up and running quickly. He didn't need to take the people he took. And Lou, it's a bigger problem that he took in this instance from the Obama Justice Department, because what ought to be investigated here is whether the Obama administration put the law enforcement arms of government in the service of Hillary Clinton's political campaign. That's the big issue.
Is there any doubt at this point? I mean, is there any doubt?
I think the degree to which it happened and whether it was on the, you know, whether they had good reasons for some of the investigation they did or not. Look, I don't get in front of what we know, and I don't know that we know everything we need to know yet. But I do know that we've spent a lot of time talking about collusion between Russia and Trump with very little evidence to rely on. Right.
No, I mean, literally no evidence by the FBI. No evidence turned up by any one of five investigating committees, 2 intelligence committees.
And look, to his credit, I want to be fair, Mueller has released 3 sets of charges so far. They don't name Trump. They don't allege any misconduct. There's nothing about collusion. There's nothing about Russia.
They have nothing to do with collusion with Russia, which was supposed to be what Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was confining this special counsel to do.
Right. But we have parallel collusions here. And there's been a lot of attention paid with very little result to collusion between Trump and Russia. Mm-hmm. There's been no attention that I can detect paid to the question whether the government's investigative, law enforcement, and intelligence arms were put in the service of a partisan political campaign, which it appears to me that there's immense evidence that that happened.
Yeah, there is so much evidence of it, as a matter of fact, that I think that there is, as Congressman Jordan has said, there should be an absolute second special counsel. Now, I have to tell you, I have some reservations because I'm not sure that adding more special counsels to this is the correct answer. But right now it does, even the request says, we have such an immense problem of corruption in the top of the FBI and the Department of Justice that we need to fix it. And that means to me, people need to be fired. They need to be, some of them going to jail, because what we are witnessing is awful conduct on the part of men and women who are supposed to be behaving according to the highest standards.
This needs to be scrubbed thoroughly. There's no question about it. I'm not as crazy as my friend Jim Jordan about the institution of the special counsel, because I think there's a better way to do it. I think you get a good, strong, independent U.S. attorney like Judge Mukasey did, for example, in the CIA interrogations case. Someone from outside of Virginia, outside of Washington, who can look at this thing and look at the conduct of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies through the 2016 campaign.
What if I said to you, I don't need to get an investigation. I already have the admission of Bruce Orr, the complicity of his wife, Nellie Orr, working for Fusion GPS, working for ostensibly the CIA on U.S. soil. For what purpose, we're told? Russia, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. You usually have, as John Le Carre used to say, a desk is a dangerous place from which to view the world. One would think that her proximate interests were somewhat more U.S.-oriented, i.e. the citizens of this country. And secondly, the number of times that we hear the OIG being deferred to by the man who is running the FBI, what are the possibilities that the OIG has been told to pick up this corrupt investigation and take it on yourself now? Is that possibly what we're looking at here?
Well, I don't think we should assume until we see otherwise that the IG is going to do anything but play it straight. And if he doesn't, we'll find out about it. But I do think it warrants a wider investigation. And I must say, the person here who could make everything happen a lot faster is President Trump.
Yeah.
He could compel these agencies to cooperate.
That's freighted with many, many imponderables and variables that have immense consequences that would unfairly and unduly return to him.
Can't be worse than this?
I think it's worth seeing where we're going to go with the special counsel. Then I think you take that Justice Department and you take every one of those SOBs and you introduce them to consequence for their nefarious activities. Is that unfair?
No, but I think we have a simple question. What happened with the dossier and the FISA application? Did they misuse the dossier?
Absolutely.
Well, we don't know that.
Yes,
that's
we
what,
do.
we could find that out.
A Department of Justice official whose wife works for GPS, Fusion GPS, who works on that dossier, and whose specific interest is Russia, and Andrew Wood, the ambassador. I mean, we know there's other collusion, and it's theirs. Andrew McCarthy, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Up next, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. An embarrassing performance today by Dem members of the House Judiciary Committee as they questioned Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Listen to just some of the Dems' lowlights at today's hearing.
Let me show you these individuals here. It says that the Trump accusers want a day in court. What does the Department of Justice, what intentions do you have to allow these women who are accusing the president of sexual misconduct? What does the Department of Justice intend to do?
I don't think I have any position on that, Congresswoman. If they file a lawsuit, they're free to do so.
But, Mr. Rosenstein, you're the #2 top law enforcement officer in the nation. Let me ask you, if a person on a train went and kissed a woman, is that a crime?
If it's a federal crime, a federal train, it might be a federal crime.
Peter Strzok did not say anything about Donald Trump that the majority of Americans weren't also thinking at the same time.
Can we put up a tweet from Donald Trump on November 3rd at 3:57 a.m. in the morning? God knows what he was doing at that time other than tweeting. It says, everybody, can we put that tweet up?
There were more, lots more, but we're only an hour-long broadcast. Maybe we'll fix that one of these days. We're coming right back with much, much more. Stay with us. President Trump is optimistic he'll be signing into law tax reform and tax cuts for Americans by Christmas.
I want to have a very fast lunch so you can go immediately back and finish it up.
Republicans very close to delivering a legislative victory to President Trump and hard-working Americans. We take it up with House Budget Chair Diane Black. And what happens when a daring pilot meets an adventurous dirt biker? We'll show you one of the most stunning and exhilarating stunts right here next. Stay with us. You don't want to miss this video. House and Senate Republicans striking a tentative deal on tax reform and tax cuts today. President Trump, well, he bought them lunch at the White House.
Our current tax code is burdensome, complex, and profoundly unfair. It has exported our jobs, closed our factories, and left millions of parents worried that their children might be the first generation to have less opportunity than the last. I'm here today to tell you that we will never let bad things happen with respect to the economy.
And my next guest at that luncheon meeting with the president and the tax conferees, we're joined by Republican Congresswoman Diane Black of Tennessee. She's chair of the House Budget Committee, a member of the powerful Ways and Means Committee. And like I said, she had a free lunch at the White House today with a very happy president. Good to see you, Congresswoman.
It's great to be with you, Lou. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations, and it looks like you're on the way.
Well, we're on the way. I'm not sure that we need congratulations at this point. I think we're going to wait until we actually have a signed deal between the House and the Senate, but we are getting very close.
And close enough that you're going to be able to get this signed by the president before Christmas.
Yes, we're going to give the American people a Christmas present and allow them to keep more of their hard-earned tax dollars in their pocket.
The 21% corporate rate, not quite what the president wanted, but in these things, what was his theme song? You don't always get what you want, you get what you need. It looks like that's going to be the result here.
Well, we are still, I will say, we're still in the process of turning some dials, so I'm not going to say exactly whether it will be that or if it may be something else, because we still have a few little pieces that we need to do. But let's just say that we're making great progress and that we do believe that we can give the House and the Senate an opportunity to be able to vote on something next week and give it to the president and, as I say, give some relief to the American people so they can keep dollars in their pocket. Look, for Tennesseans, this is great. This means additional dollars in their pocket, both on what their tax burden is and also on the amount of jobs. 18,000 new jobs in Tennessee are proposed to be created, and that means an additional almost $2,000 in people's pockets.
You know what, when I think about those projections like that, I've heard them throughout my career. What I do know is that once you change direction in an economy, open it up, get rid of regulation, open up the pathways for animal spirits in a capitalist economy like ours, free enterprise kicks in and nothing but good things happen. So I can only imagine what would happen to this economy if Republicans fail to deliver. I don't think I don't think Mitch McConnell, I don't think Speaker Ryan want to even contemplate what that would do.
No,
so it seems to me like those choices are pretty simple for you all.
Yeah, not at all, because we've been talking about this for the 7 years that I've been here. You know, Chairman Camp began this conversation, and when folks say, well, this is new and we haven't had full disclosure, well, look, we have working committees, and I chaired one of the working committees that we were able to get some legislation actually out of that. And so we've been talking about this for a long time. This is not anything new. It's just a matter of being being able to put it on the paper.
The doing is what's new, though. This is the doing. Y'all have been talking for a long time.
That's right. I'm so proud of the fact that we are at this point in time where we're actually going to show the American people we can get this done.
Yeah, and I'm proud of the fact that this president was one talking about politicians in Washington who do all talking, and now he's showing them how to get things done. And I think it's a wonderful moment for all Americans. I also want to turn to what could be coming our way, thank you very much, to the Dems, and that is a government shutdown. Where do you stand, and are you confident that you can avoid it? Where do we stand?
Well, right now we are going to be doing another continuing resolution, which we want to keep the government open until we can get the BCA cap taken care of. But look, it doesn't do American people any good to shut down the government. We really don't want to do that. I've been here when we did that previously. And look, we've got so many good things going on, Lou. We want to keep the government open. We want to work with the Democrats to make this happen.
You know, just like you say, Congresswoman, I can't think of a good reason to shut it down. But I also can think of some Congress people who threaten to do so. Where is the Freedom Caucus? Where are the conservatives? And where is the leadership? And where are the Dems?
Well, I know that the Speaker is working with across the aisle and trying to get the Democrats to come where we can have an agreement on a BCA cap. And that is really important that we get that agreement, because unlike the reconciliation where we can do that simply with our own members, that's not something we can do with our own members. We do have to have the bipartisan support on getting that BCA cap done. So, look, if we had all of our members in our House vote on it, we could do it here, but you can't do it over in the Senate because you need 60 votes. So, look, we've got to work together on this one.
Let Mitch McConnell worry about that part of it.
Yes, we're going to let him worry about it.
You all get it done. What do you think? What are the odds right now?
I think the odds are looking better day by day, and there's a lot of conversation going on. And I will tell you, as a fiscal hawk, you know how I am, and I did this in my budget, where I just say you've got to watch those dollars. And even when we see the economy getting better, Lou, we have got to be careful that we don't spend more than what we bring in, and we start using some of those dollars to pay down our debt.
When have you ever seen that not be the case? I mean, you had a Republican administration for 8 years. You watched the Obama years drive it crazy, almost doubling it.
Yeah.
But you have to go back to the early Clinton years, the mid-Clinton years, to see a balanced budget. Come on, Congresswoman, you don't want to slow this economy down.
No, I don't want to slow this economy down. I want this economy to grow, and I want those dollars to come in, and then I want us to be responsible when the dollars come in. And with our budget, this is the first time in 20 years that we produced this conservative budget where we actually had some mandatory spending. Now, look, the Senate didn't take it, but this is changing the culture around here. There are a lot of people who are a lot more aware of what we need to do because of what we did on the budget, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that you guys are close to getting this economy where it needs to be, and that is 4% plus growth.
Amen.
And start building prosperity for every American. And I don't want nobody's more conservative than me as a fiscal policy. I think you know that. But I got to tell you, the idea of slowing down this economy with a government shutdown is absolute nuts.
That's right.
And with that, Congresswoman, I'm going to say to you, thank you for being here. Thanks for getting it all done. And we know you're going to give us that Christmas present. We're all taking it to the bank.
We're excited about that. Thank you for having me, Lou. Okay.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being with us, Congressman. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question, do you believe that by defending Robert Mueller and the FBI investigators, Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein has basically just demonstrated an utter lack of awareness of the depth of corruption that has already ensnared the upper echelons of the Bureau and the Department of Justice? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. We need to hear from you on this. I really don't think he has any sense of how bad what he's looking at really is. Watch as a dirt biker does a backflip. Whoa. That's pretty impressive. You know, I don't think you can. I I definitely wouldn't take the bike deal. I wouldn't take the plane deal, so that's a stunt that just I wouldn't be doing. It took off from a remote runway in South Africa. The plane is an extra EA-300, traveling over 200 miles an hour for this incredible stunt. I don't want to think about that propeller at all. Up next, the national left-wing media hits rock bottom. Its blatant disrespect of this president reaching new lows. We'll have that and much more straight ahead. By the way, the media has a bigger approval rating problem than this president ever had or ever will. We're coming right back. The left-wing national media today showing just how far it's gone trying to destroy this president. USA Today bashing President Trump in an outrageous editorial, declaring him, quote, unfit to clean toilets in Obama's presidential library or go to shine George W. Bush's shoes. USA Today's editorial staff, as you can see, just a lofty exposition. They're willing to stoop that low because they are struggling. Circulation at USA Today down roughly 30% over the last few years. And if Al Newhart, the founder, were alive, I believe he would give the editorial board a real, pat on the back for such nuanced, insightful analysis. But believe me, he'd use his small boot, a low boot, to do it. Up next, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein standing by Special Counsel Mueller despite obvious appearances of conflicts of interest. We take up corruption at the DOJ. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin are here next. Stay with us. In our online poll we asked last night, do you believe a second special counsel is the only way to root out the deep state corruption and Democratic bias in the Justice Department? 84% of you said yes. Now, I think that should have been higher, personally. Joining me now, Ed Rollins, chairman of the Great America PAC, Michael Goodwin, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the New York Post, both Fox Business contributors and have accolades and plaudits and honorifics well beyond all the time we have left. Good to have you both here.
Thank you.
Let's start with, to me, it's ancient history. Roy Moore in Alabama, gone.
Gone. He's a lousy candidate. He ran a lousy campaign. And the other side, guided by Fox's own Joe Trippi, who ran the Democrat campaign, did a traditional campaign, and they got the African-American vote out at 95%.
Joe got lucky.
He knew it.
I got to explain. Joe Trippi is an old friend.
Absolutely.
And a great strategist.
He knew what he was going to do. And I said on this show that they have to get 95% of the African-American vote out, and they did. And 98%.
Did you tell him to do that?
I didn't tell him to do that. I didn't think he could do it. I think I said it, but I didn't think he could do it. The Christian right didn't turn out quite normal numbers.
Yeah, that's...
and the candidate didn't campaign the last couple of weeks there. They didn't have the money, didn't have the resources, and Washington was against him.
Right, yeah. Mitch McConnell, the establishment.
And don't forget Shelby.
And Senator Shelby.
So Shelby can send that next.
And his, what did he call it, a distinguished write-in candidate.
He can look up every day for the next 3 years, and when he's cast his vote, he can know that his vote's being offset by the non-distinguished candidate who got elected yesterday.
Yeah, and I don't think it bothers him a bit.
Doesn't, absolutely not.
Yeah, look, I mean, the history of Roy Moore in Alabama is, even when he has won 2 statewide races, he's won by close margin.
It hasn't been in landslide.
Right. So with all the baggage this time and all the money spent against him and all the attacks from the media, and then the write-ins, I mean, the write-ins look about the same size as the margin of defeat.
Actually,
so it was just a bridge too far, too many things. And
McConnell, you know, on one level you could say McConnell was right about this. Luther Strange would have been far superior to what Alabama got.
Sure.
And what the president gets as a result. The president was right. He also backed Luther Strange. Yes. But the real answer is that Strange was the wrong guy, Moore was the wrong guy, and Mo Brooks was the right guy. And why in the heck they didn't get behind him? I mean, this is like people didn't do any thinking here. They just kept reacting.
The final story will be Sessions was the worst pick the president's made to be Attorney General, and
cost
the seat.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Rod Rosenstein, defending corruption in his own organization, the appearance of conflicts of interest and activists working within the special counsel against a sitting president. This is ugly as it gets.
I thought Rosenstein's today often looked like the deer caught in the headlights. I mean, he seemed not to be prepared for these questions about did you pay, steal, was the Steele dossier.
Oh, he was never going to answer the question.
But all of these things about the contributors on Mueller's team, the two Democrats, his answer is more like, 2000, trust us. We have procedures. We will take care of these things. Did he not see what happened in this country in 2016? We're past that now. We don't trust the government.
Andy McCarthy said something, a terrific, he prosecuted the blind sheikh, for those of you who don't know, a terrific attorney and writer. But he said all President Trump has to do here is tell the Justice Department to release those documents, the FISA documents, to release everything and give it to the Oversight Committee, because it's ignorance what's being done here by...
Could not agree more. And the president understands he's in a real fight. If he doesn't do that and make some other changes, he's gonna have a real long, hard battle here, because they're against him.
Yeah, he's got to get a hold of the Justice Department. I mean, with Sessions out of there and Rosenstein sort of going by the book, and then you see the deep state that is there, the president's got to step in here somehow. He's got to figure this out.
And somebody has to go into that Justice Department. And I'm not saying this moment, but rip out those fools who think that they are, it's a Candy Rock Mountain for people who would subvert the Constitution of the United States and a president. Gentlemen, it is always good to see you.
Thank you.
Why don't we go have dinner?
Why don't we do that?
All right. And thank you very much. Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you very much. Charlie Hurt and Molly Hemingway among our guests tomorrow. We hope you'll be with us. We thank you for being with us tonight. Good night from New York.